The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Welcome to the News Hour. I'm your host, Nsai Gabriel. Thank you for joining us today. We're starting with the latest from Zambia. Zambian government has unveiled a comprehensive power expansion plan aimed at increasing electricity generation capacity, strengthening the national grid, and addressing supply pressures driven by rising demand and climate-related challenges. Officials say the strategy is designed to ensure reliable electricity for households, businesses, and public institutions while supporting long-term economic growth. The plan focuses on expanding generation capacity, diversifying energy resources, and upgrading transmission and distribution infrastructure to improve efficiency and resilience. The expansion plan prioritizes the development of new generation projects across multiple energy sources. While hydropower remains an important component, government officials say future investments will place greater emphasis on alternative and complementary sources such as solar, thermal, and other renewable technologies. The objective is to reduce over-reliance on a single source and ensure stable supply during periods of reduced water availability. Tunisia and Algeria have renewed their full support for a comprehensive political settlement in Libya. The position was outlined during a joint news conference in Tunis by Tunisian Prime Minister Sarah Zafrani Zenziri and Algerian Prime Minister Sifi Grib at the close of the 23rd session of the Tunisian-Algerian Joint High Commission. Both sides welcomed the outcomes of the second round of the tripartite meeting on Libya held in Algeria on the 6th of November. Both leaders described it as an important step in strengthening regional coordination and supporting security and stability in Libya and the wider Maghreb and Arab region. Zenziri said Tunisia and Algeria shared aligned views on developments in Libya, underlining the need for closer consultation and coordination to accompany Libyans towards a consensual political process-free from foreign interference, while safeguarding Libya's unity, sovereignty, and resources. On his part, Grib reiterated the support for a comprehensive political settlement in Libya remained a strategic and consistent choice for both countries, based on enabling the Libyan people to rebuild legitimate institutions and ensuring Libya's stability as a key factor for regional security. Angola is proactively responding to growing pressure to handle rising passenger traffic by developing new passenger information monitoring and management tools to enhance security and streamline border control at Dr. Antonio Augusto Neto Airport. The airport has collaborated with technology giant SITA to deploy its advanced passenger information and passenger name record gateway. The initiative is complemented by a new passenger information monitoring management center in Luanda. The new system allows airlines to send two types of passenger data to authorities before departure. Angola's State Secretary for Civil Aviation, Maritime and Port Sector, Rui Cierceira, stated that the strategic investment strengthens the security of borders and consolidates the country's position as a modern and competitive international transport hub. Angola's new airport, which has ambitions to become a major global transport hub, can handle up to 15 million passengers per year and is linked to the extensive road, rail and port infrastructure, strengthening national and regional connectivity. The Guinea government has officially launched construction of the winning consortium Guinea Alumina Refinery in Dobali in Bokeh Prefecture. The refinery is a key part of the government's drive to move beyond raw bauxite exports and deepen local value addition. The launch ceremony was attended by senior government officials, members of the diplomatic corps, industrial partners, traditional leaders, and local communities from Bokeh and the wider Lower Guinea region. The project is being developed in the partnership with the WCAG. With an annual production capacity of 1.2 million tons of alumina and capital investment exceeding $1.2 billion, the refinery is among the largest industrial projects ever undertaken in Guinea. It is positioned as a cornerstone of the country's strategy to integrate more fully into the global aluminum value chain. Africa must strengthen continental cooperation to address low food production and secure long-term food stability, Namibia's Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Land Reform, Ruth Masaki, has said. In an exclusive interview with Pulse of Africa, Masaki noted that African countries can accelerate progress by harmonizing strategies, expanding technical cooperation, and signing mutual agreements.
African countries can work together in collaborating on the strategies that we can use all together to unlock insufficient food productions in all our countries. I see more opportunity for the Africa to do better into ensuring food security through collaboration, through touring all states. Let's identify the problems that are faced by each state within Africa and then come together and assist that particular country for them to stand on their own.
She highlighted the need for strong investment in education in technical skills such as plant health, animal disease management, and biosecurity to boost intra-Africa trade. Removing unnecessary import charges among African states, she added, would keep regional agriculture trade active. Masaki also stressed the importance of continued continental dialogues to build resilience. She urged more research on drought-resistant seeds, climate-smart practices, and closer engagement with farmers. Let's identify each country's challenges and support one another so every state can stand on its own, she said. Shifting to business headlines, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development said it had approved a €30 million loan to Benin's national electricity utility, its first investment in sub-Saharan Africa. The funds will strengthen the national power grid and modernize public electricity distribution infrastructure, the banks had said. The project aims to improve living conditions for rural communities and vulnerable households, particularly women. The rural electrification program will connect about 120,000 new households, roughly 600,000 people, in 750 underserved villages and rural settlements across the Borogo, Mono, and Koufu regions. It includes the extensions, upgrading, and densification of medium and low voltage distribution networks, as well as improved fault detection systems and enhanced cybersecurity capabilities for the SBEE. The MTN South Sudan has cut its service prices by 25%, Information Minister Atanai Wek Atanai said. He urged the company to reduce prices further to improve affordability. The announcement was made at a company-hosted event attended by industry stakeholders. The move follows recent talks between the minister and telecom operators on lowering internet costs. According to the International Telecommunications Union, the monthly cost of 5 GB of mobile internet accounted for 24.2% of South Sudan's gross national income per capita in 2025. By comparison, the ratio is 5.32% in Africa and 1.38% globally. The International Telecommunications Union says the cost should not exceed 2% for a service to be considered affordable. Finally, sports news. The Lesotho Football Association's Disciplinary and Disputes Committee Chairperson, Advocate Shale has been appointed by the Confederation of African Football to serve in the disciplinary board of the upcoming Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2025. Advocate Shale's stock has been on the rise since his appointment to serve in the CAF Disciplinary Committee, having served in a similar role for the African Nations Championship Tournament held in East Africa earlier this year. He was also recently in a panel that oversaw 4 cases of CAF interclub competitions. Advocate Shale and assistant referee Soru Fatsone will represent Lesotho Football Association at the Continental Tournament in Morocco from December 21 to January 18. Now let's take a look at the current weather forecast. That's all for now. Before I conclude, let me invite you to watch POA's in-depth program, which comes right after the news. Thanks for tuning in, and goodbye.
Rwanda had experienced one of the harshest crimes in the history of mankind, genocide. Close to 1 million people were killed following the 1994 genocide. Interestingly, Rwanda has passed that darkest chapter of history through transitional justice and reconciliation. What are the major takeaways of Rwanda's transitional justice and reconciliation process? Well, my guest for today is Denis Bekasha, Associate Professor of Transitional Justice at Rwanda University in Kigali, Rwanda. Do stay with us. Hello, Professor, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
One of the many things that comes to our mind when we think of Rwanda is, of course, the 1994 genocide. Can you give us a brief glimpse into what happened during that time?
This is a genocide that was planned for many years. Some people have written about how it was planned and given a series of steps that were taken. And I would like to mention that the main thing that we can consider for having motivated this genocide is something that is centered on ethnicity, because as you may know, genocide takes place and it is considered to take place either when it is carried out on the basis of ethnicity, on the basis of nationality, on religion, and many other, and other things. But for the case of Rwanda, it was based on ethnicity, where there were 3 ethnic groups, which are not real, but because these were stereotyped by especially the colonial rule, right from 1930s, when the first ID card was issued. What was before socioeconomic classes was turned into ethnic groups, Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa. And this is what we find that has really culminated into the genocide against the Tutsi, that even had to go beyond what the world had ever experienced, whereby in a period of only 100 days, over 1 million people had been killed. That is what I can say. It was really a very serious tragedy, and we can say basically because of the colonial influence, but that did not stop there because of the bad leadership of the First Republic and what is also known as the Second Republic. The First Republic by President Grigory Kayibanda, who gave a firm ground for this socio-economic division, and also President Juvenal Habyarimana, who also came after him, and he also sustained this division and even made it much more serious.
That kind of social chaos and tragedy are the history of Rwanda. Today, Rwanda has become one of the safest countries in Africa. So Rwanda didn't stick on 1994. By many parameters, by many indicators and standards, Rwanda is now moving forward in economic growth, in terms of political development and so on, due to the transitional justice and reconciliation process that was conducted right after 1994 genocide. I will come to the detail of the transitional justice and reconciliation process, but for now, I want you to tell us a little bit about Gacaca Court. How did this traditional conflict resolving mechanism help to heal the wounds of 1994 genocide victims?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is also a very good question. And I build on the fact that Gacaca courts were created because other judicial systems had failed. Rwandans did not begin with Gacaca courts. In fact, what was the number one to begin with was the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, which was established in November 1994, just immediately after the genocide was stopped. This worked, and also in 1996, the government of Rwanda established a system again that was going to base on conventional system to try genocide cases. And also in a period of 5 years, 6,000 cases were tried, 6,000 genocide cases were tried. But we need to remember also that by that time, over 120,000 cases were pending to be tried in the ordinary way of doing judicial system, in the ordinary way of rendering justice. But of course, as we know, you cannot render justice when you delay, for example, the pace of 6,000 cases within a period of 5 years, when you are waiting for 120,000 cases to be heard. So this was a serious and a critical situation where the government of Rwanda had to think otherwise. And this is why the President of the Republic had to make sure that there was a consultative meeting that came in 1998 through 1999. And this is how Gacaca courts were born. And they were given a mission. The mission was to speed up genocide cases because they were not speeded up before. The other reason was to make sure that Gacaca courts reveal the truth about genocide events, then also contribute to reconciliation, but also make sure that the culture of impunity is uprooted. So given this situation, Gacaca courts, I would say that worked as a forum where people could meet and discuss genocide matters. And all of this was done in a period, I could say, of 10 years, right from 2002, when Gacaca courts were launched officially, and then in 2012, when Gacaca courts were also closed officially. So it has been a situation where Gacaca courts have contributed also in a way to socio-economic development, mainly because if a country, this is something very important, if a country is not stable, then even socio-economic activities cannot take place. Who can plan for the country? The government is unstable when the people are unstable, but also the people cannot, for example, join their efforts to think and implement the socio-economic development. Rwanda has come up with, for example, people putting their efforts together in what they call cooperative societies, but also opening companies and so forth. So this has led to socio-economic development, but thanks to the work done by the Gacaca courts, so that the country stabilizes and then concentrates on socio-economic development to make sure that also foreigners, for example, are trusting the country and the people, that even when they invest in the country, then there is room for security, there is room for development, for workforce, and so forth. Also investing, Rwanda has invested in the human resource, and this is why it has also this element of knowledge economy. The knowledge economy has made Rwanda also advance, just to mention a few.
So after 1994 genocide, Rwanda has done two important things: justice and reconciliation, which have been very much fundamental to nation-building process. On one hand, the perpetrators of crime were made accountable, and at the same time, reconciliation was also conducted between the perpetrators and victims of the crime. So how Rwanda balanced the two, justice and reconciliation?
Rwanda, or even if I could say the justice system or the government in general, did not consider one to leave the other. In fact, when you consider the element of Gacaca court system, this is the justice for reconciliation. This is the other name for Gacaca courts, in fact. If I could say, it was a very high-level slogan that Gacaca courts system was justice for reconciliation. So there was no choice to say, let's go through justice and then reconciliation, because as you may know, in transitional justice, there are two main choices of how a country can render justice. Justice can be rendered basing on retributive justice, but also there is an element of restorative justice. And when there is restorative justice, it means the main difference is that retributive justice will mainly be centered on punishing, while restorative justice is centering on making sure that there is reconciliation in the society, individuals in the community, and so forth. So when I'm asked to talk about the justice system that worked in Rwanda and what is still working, but especially about the Gacaca courts, I would say the Gacaca courts had both elements in the dispensing criminal justice. There was this element of retributive justice, mainly for those who never were identified to be supporting reconciliation efforts. There are those who participated in the genocide against the Tutsi, who had a very big role in killing people. But even in the aftermath of the genocide, they were not supportive to reconciliation. So those were punished. But there are also those who were identified for having been incited by the government. And the aftermath of the genocide, they were very much supportive to reconciliation. And these are mainly people, you could even find that they never went to jail, because there was a system of TIGE, which is a French acronym for Travaux d'intérêt général, but which can be the equivalent of community service. And if people were supportive to reconciliation, they confessed and their confession was accepted, then such people could do, instead of going to jail, could do community service. And these were all efforts meant to make sure that there is reconciliation in the country, other than having just retribution or retributive justice in the system. That is what I could say about what you have asked. Thank you.
As far as many literatures are concerned, the victims, survivors of the 1994 genocide were at the center of Rwanda's transitional justice process. How victims and survivors of the attack were supported and compensated?
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, In transitional justice, we say mainly transitional justice is meant to make sure that survivors of atrocities are attended to. In this case, the survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi, which happened in 1994. It was evident that survivors, the victims, were supposed to be also treated in a way that justice is dispensed. And when you look at the situation, of course, the transitional justice has pillars. We are talking of pillars of prosecution. So criminal suspects of the genocide against the Tutsi were prosecuted. And as we have mentioned, through Gacaca courts, through ICTR, and even through conventional courts, then we find that at least this pillar, we see that, for example, Gacaca courts, over almost 2 million cases were tried. To be exact, 1,958,634 cases were tried by Gacaca courts, and these are genocide cases. So when you are trying to make sure that what has been made for the survivors to understand that justice has been rendered, this is the evidence that justice was rendered. But also, we are talking about reparations as a pillar in transitional justice. So when you talk of reparations, in fact, we are talking also about sections of reparation. We are talking of compensation. Compensation goes with the quantification of the harm that has been made. But of course, in Rwanda, it wasn't easy to make sure that this harm is quantified and then the victims, the survivors are compensated. But when you talk, for example, about restitution, this type of reparation has been done whereby if something was damaged, then the criminal had to make sure that this is restituted. If an item was looted, then it was made sure that this item is restituted and so forth. When you talk of rehabilitation, we have seen, for example, that Rwanda has managed to come up with the Survivor Fund, where even individuals were contributing other than the government budget. And then we see that this was in line to make sure that the survivors of the genocide, especially the vulnerable, were supported for treatment, because the genocide left some with the recurring effects, including, those who were maimed during the genocide and then could be treated. Then we are talking of education. The survivors of the genocide also against the Tutsi could be treated in the hospitals, given medication, regular medication and so forth. So we see also the rehabilitation. But we are also talking about the situation where survivors of the genocide and also the harmers have this forum, the forum for dialogue, to make sure that they get the social fabric mended. And this all is to make sure that at least Rwandans, and to be specific, the survivors of the genocide have given a room to make sure that justice is rendered.
Professor, as you interestingly explained earlier on, the perpetrators of crime were made accountable and justice was served. But once the perpetrators of crime were made accountable, and once the perpetrators of crime finish their sentence, finish their punishment, they need to reintegrate to the society. Talk us a little bit about the reintegration process. What steps have been taken to rebuild trust and to prevent further division?
I remember by the time I was writing this book, Dispensing Criminal Justice in Rwanda, that is in 2023, only 25,000 out of over 1 million criminals, the people that participated in the genocide, were still in the detention facilities. And this also brings me to a point that, of course, most of these other people that were in jail, were in the prison, are currently in the community. And again, we can say there is no insecurities that are reported. Then, of course, we have to conclude that the steps that have been used have been helpful to make sure that reintegration is also favorable. Reintegration of people that have been in community service, reintegration of people that have been in the detention facilities, all these people, I think the number now should be less than 20,000 in prison or in the detention facilities. And all these are in the community. What has the government done? The government has made sure that people who go to detention facilities, they are catered for, they are educated, civic education, to make sure that they are given ample information about how they can behave if they are returned to the community. And also, this is cross-cutting in public speeches by the president, parliamentarians, cabinet ministers. The point has been, for the last 31 years, the point has been unity of Rwandans. In fact, to make it very attractive, the government of Rwanda, and particularly the president of the republic, Paul Kagame, has oriented Rwandan politics in 3 ways. He has said that unity of Rwandans is very paramount. Then accountability is the second paramount element of Rwandan politics, and then thinking big. So when you think about unity, all Rwandans being together, whoever is against this element then must be reported. And the people, of course, have been understanding why unity is very important. And this is why reintegration is also easier, I have to mention. But also, we have been having the commission that was responsible for prevention of genocide and fighting against genocide ideology. Currently, there is a full ministry of unity that was established for unity of Rwandans. And this is Minubumwe in Kinyarwanda, but we call it Ministry of Unity and Civic Engagement. So most of these activities are also taking place in this ministry, and they have different different topics they can discuss during time of commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi, and even after, during ordinary time. Unity is a chapter that is discussed and cross-cutting in every field of Rwandan politics. So I think reintegration is easier because of all of these. And then you can see that also Rwanda is a country that has educated everyone to make sure that if you, for example, you get reintegrated, you make busy, you make yourself busy in activities that are more important for your development and the family's development. And this is why that the country is not facing any challenges as far as reintegration is concerned. Because there is also reintegration of former combatants, which is also taking place. People that have been, especially in the DRC, the former Zaire, that are coming back to the country, and then they are given also orientation. At least there is a specific orientation given by the Commission for Demobilization and Reintegration of Former Combatants.
In your view, how the Rwandan transitional justice and reconciliation process has impacted community relations, nation building, and trust in public institutions?
First of all, I want to note that the impact is very, very positive. And I would say it has been basically on social fabric of Rwandans in the aftermath of the genocide against the Tutsi. When the genocide ended in 1994, in July, in fact, Rwanda was identified with the two main blocks. People who could say, we were harmed and you harmed us. So those two blocks, when you go in the society, the community, today, you do not find such blocks. You find there is this general reintegration, general reparation of the social fabric. And this is where I say the impact is sustainable for the social fabric, and also the impact has in fact gone beyond what we see as social to even become socio-economic, to include the economy of the country and other developments.
What are the major takeaways of Rwanda's transitional justice and reconciliation process for African countries which are emerging from conflict?
The major takeaway is that I believe, personally, individually, also after looking at what is happening and even carrying out different research, I really think that citizen participation is paramount in every state nation. And the citizen participation, of course, goes with other elements, such as unity, because when citizens are not united, they can never also participate in what is meant for the development of the country. But also this goes with democratic principles, democratization. If a country is not towards democratization, then this means also citizen participation is going to be tempered with. But democratization is one of the elements, and of course, you know, citizen participation is part of democratization. But we are also talking about accountability. As I have mentioned, also accountability is major. In every state, there has to be accountability for the wrongs that are done, and then the persons that have been involved in these wrongs, they should be accountable. For the authorities that are given power, they must be asked how they are using the power given to them by the constituent power or the citizens. And then, of course, that is where everything will begin. And I'm mentioning this because I know the importance of leadership. Rwanda's leadership has been also paramount in all the steps of the journey until today, and even the journey ahead. We are talking of leadership that has initiated all these steps, including the church courts. Leadership that has strengthened unity, that has strengthened accountability, democratization, and so forth. And maybe to finish, I would go back to the words of one important person. I think he's French, Charles someone, who said that he would rather fear an army of 100 sheep led by a lion, other than fearing an army of 100 lions led by sheep. Because even when citizens might be ready to participate and resolve their own issues, but if the leadership is not giving them this ample opportunity to do so, then it means that they won't reach anywhere. They will be, they will be facing an obstacle before them, and this is leadership. But if the leadership is tough and is orienting the participation of citizens in a positive way, then a country like Rwanda, of course, will have to manage and will have to thrive. I thank you so much.
Denis Bekasha, Associate Professor of Transitional Justice at the University of Rwanda. Thank you so much for sharing your in-depth knowledge and perspectives regarding transitional justice. I hope I will see you in another interview. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much.
That was my brief interview with Denis Bekasha, Associate Professor of Transitional Justice at the University of Rwanda. Many thanks for watching, and bye for now.